Jared Lorenzen, he's now focusing on a different goal, and that is getting healthy.
And Newton fires, and it's caught on the outside by Benjamin, who escapes.
To weigh 375 pounds, he out there looking like a King Hippo.
We're talking about Carlos Williams, a speed demon whose future got swallowed by the scale, and Nate Newton, the gridiron giant who blew past 400 pounds after ruling the line of scrimmage. These gridiron warriors lost control of their fitness and paid the ultimate cost. Enter Jared Lorenzen. This guy wasn't your typical signal caller. They called him the Hefty Lefty, a Kentucky legend who racked up over 10,000 yards and 78 scores. Even back then, at 285 pounds, he was the biggest QB the league had ever seen. You couldn't ignore that arm. Though, the New York Giants scooped him up in 2004, where he rode shotgun for Eli Manning and snagged himself a Super Bowl ring in his prime. He had the notoriety, the locker room respect, and the resume most athletes would kill for. Yet, the battles away from the stadium, specifically with the scale, began to erode everything. He showed sparks of greatness, but spent most of his NFL days holding a clipboard. He only took the field a few times, most notably for a massive quarterback sneak and stepping in when Manning went down. But the novelty of his size eventually turned into a liability. The coaching staff fretted over his fitness, and every ounce over 285 became a deal-breaker. Come 2008, New York showed him the door. A short stint with the Colts fizzled out, and the NFL dream died. Lorenzen pivoted to arena football. Wearing every hat from player to coach to front office exec, he morphed into a cult hero online, with clips of him juking linebackers going viral even as his frame labored under the massive load. But the physical toll was undeniable. A shattered tibia and wrecked ankles finally forced him to hang up the cleats permanently. Away from the turf, the numbers on the scale spiraled. By 2017, he was north of 500 pounds, prompting him to start the Jared Lorenzen Project to chronicle his fight for survival. Through a mix of clean eating, yoga, and medication, he managed to drop more than 100 pounds. Though the grind was relentless and grueling, his online fan base rallied behind his grit. But decades of physical trauma had already wreaked irreversible havoc on his system. On July 3, 2019, tragedy struck. Jared passed away at only 38, succumbing to an infection compounded by heart and kidney failure, the tragic result of a lifetime battling obesity. Switching gears, let's talk about a guy who ate his way out of the league, JaMarcus Russell. The hype surrounding Russell was stratospheric. As the top pick in 2007, this LSU gunslinger boasted the kind of frame and rocket arm that screams Hall of Famer. He was a monster in the college ranks, snagging the Manning Award and powering the Tigers to a massive Sugar Bowl win. At 6'6", with an absolute howitzer attached to his shoulder, he looked invincible. But the pros have a way of humbling you, and his time with the Oakland Raiders was a total train wreck. He held out for a monster payday, missing crucial rookie prep. And when he finally suited up, his performance was all over the map. Giveaways became his trademark. He wrapped up year one throwing more picks than scores, with a passer rating completely in the tank under 66. Across 3 painful seasons, he never showed the drive you need from a franchise savior. Instead, his waistline expanded as his discipline evaporated. Come 2010, insiders were calling him shockingly heavy. He surged past 300 pounds, which destroyed his footwork and ruined his throwing motion. Head coach Tom Cable buried him on the bench. And by May 2010, he was cut loose. His pro career was dead in the water before he even hit 25. He went from a chiseled collegiate weapon to a sluggish pro whose lack of fitness made him a total liability. It wasn't just physical. Chaos followed him everywhere. He got busted for codeine possession in 2010 and later faced heat for allegedly mishandling donation money at his old high school. When he tried to claw his way back in 2013, he had to overhaul his entire physique. Starting at a massive 315, he torched over 50 pounds, slimming down to 281 with 15% body fat. His camp claimed he looked borderline skinny and more explosive than ever. But despite the makeover, NFL front offices weren't buying what he was selling. Nobody wanted to take the gamble on a second act. And Russell never snapped a ball in the pros again. He's still around the game, coaching and mentoring. but the shadow of wasted potential hangs over him. Next on the list is a guy whose career was derailed by a mix of injuries and a widening waistline, Kelvin Benjamin. This dude hit the league with a blend of mass and agility that you just don't see every day. A 6'5", 240-pound giant from Florida State. He had the wingspan and hops that drew comparisons to legends like Plaxico Burress and Megatron himself. Following a stellar sophomore year where he racked up over 1,000 yards and 15 scores, he went pro. The Carolina Panthers snagged him with the 28th pick in 2014. He didn't waste any time, crashing onto the scene and making noise right out of the gate. He hauled in 73 catches for just over 1,000 yards and 9 TDs, bullying defensive backs in the red zone and pulling down highlight reel grabs. His sheer size created nightmare matchups, cementing him as a physical force. But soon enough, that massive frame started working against him. He battled the scale even before the pros, and by the 2015 offseason, rumors swirled that he showed up to camp at 280 pounds, nearly 35 pounds heavier than he should have been. The internet had a field day. Unflattering clips of him looking sluggish made the rounds, with people cracking jokes that he was one biscuit away from converting to tight end. Even coach Ron Rivera raised a red flag, admitting Benjamin was a little heavy and connecting the extra baggage to his nagging hamstring issues. Then came the major blow. A torn ACL erased his entire 2015 campaign. And when he finally returned in 2016, that explosive step just wasn't there anymore. He managed to post 941 yards and 7 scores, but the conditioning, questions, and inconsistent play hung over him like a dark cloud. By the middle of 2017, Carolina had seen enough and shipped him off to the Buffalo Bills, where he simply couldn't stay on the field or make an impact. He wrapped up the 2017 campaign with 692 yards and 3 scores, but the next season was a total bust. He got cut after scraping together just 354 yards and 1 lonely touchdown. Word got out that his work ethic and fitness were tanking, sealing his fate. Even a quick pit stop with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2018 couldn't save him. He barely snagged 2 catches across 3 games and was a ghost during the playoffs. A Hail Mary comeback with the New York Giants in 2021 fizzled out before camp even started, pushing him out of the league for good. Now, let's talk about a guy whose career completely imploded due to health disasters and a failing body, Albert Haynesworth. Haynesworth burst onto the scene as arguably the scariest defensive tackle we'd seen in ages. A massive 6'6", 317-pound beast out of Tennessee. The Tennessee Titans snatched him up in the first round back in 2002, with scouts absolutely drooling over his freakish mix of raw power and speed. The guy clocked a 4.8240, hit a 39-inch vertical, and could broad jump more than 9 feet, numbers that shouldn't be possible for a man that size. Initially, Haynesworth was unstoppable inside, wrecking offensive lines to snag back-to-back Pro Bowl nods and first-team All-Pro honors in 2007 and 2008. He was a total terror against the run, burying offenses left and right. Once the 2008 season wrapped, he became the hottest ticket on the free agent market. Washington handed him a staggering 7-year, $100 million bag, historical money for a lineman back then. But despite the massive hype, his time in D.C. turned toxic almost instantly. He couldn't stay in shape, bombed the conditioning tests, blew off mandatory camps, and basically refused to put in the work required for a superstar. They wouldn't even let him practice until he passed a fitness test, and he only managed to finish 5 out of 13 sessions during a brutal 3-week camp. Between his poor health and lack of hustle, he only suited up for 20 games in 2 years, going down in history as arguably the biggest free agency bust ever. It wasn't just about being out of shape. Serious medical nightmares were compounding his physical collapse. While playing, he battled rhabdomyolysis, a scary condition where your muscles rapidly break down from overexertion and dehydration. That stopped him from training properly and made his play erratic. But once he hung up the cleats, his health took an even darker turn. Come 2019, his kidneys completely shut down, a disaster he blamed partly on popping painkillers like Toradol just to stay on the field. He needed a life-saving transplant in 2021. On top of that, Brain aneurysms in 2014 nearly ended his life and left him with lingering memory problems. Physicians told him he couldn't lift anything heavier than 25 pounds over his head, effectively destroying the workout regimen that built his career. Flipping the script, let's look at Eddie Lacy, a guy whose weight gain turned him into a punchline. He came into the league known as a bruising, bell cow running back. The Green Bay Packers grabbed him in the second round of the 2013 draft, bringing in an Alabama champion with 3 rings and a frame built to crush people. Weighing 231 pounds, he was a rare mix of agility and power, easily running over anyone foolish enough to stand in his way. His rookie year lived up to the billing. He smashed his way to 1,278 rushing yards and 11 scores, added 257 receiving yards, and took home Offensive Rookie of the Year, plus Pro Bowl and All-Pro honors. He was the first Packer to snag that Rookie of the Year trophy since 1971, shattering franchise rookie records for yards and touchdowns along the way. For the next couple of years, he kept that 1,000-yard streak alive, wrapping up 2014 with over $1,000 on the ground, 9 trips to the end zone, and solid receiving numbers. Then, the wheels started to come off. By 2015, ankle and groin injuries were slowing him down, while missed curfews and disciplinary headaches were messing with his reliability. His production plummeted to just 758 yards and 3 scores, a huge drop-off. As his stats sank, his waistline expanded. That lean 231-pound frame blew up to 267 pounds by 2017. You could see it on game day. He was slower, gassed easily, and the internet let him know it. Viral memes about his obsession with Chinese food flooded social media, with fans and reporters taking cheap shots at his size. Lacy confessed the online hate really hurt, but he swore he was dedicated to getting back in shape. When he signed with Seattle, they literally put $55,000 bounties in his contract just for hitting 250 pounds, proof that his weight was jeopardizing his job. Even after hiring Tony Horton for intense training, fixing his diet, and grinding through boxing and yoga, he never got back to that rookie magic. Between the injuries, the yo-yo dieting, and the relentless mockery, his time in the league was done. Next up is Shaun Rogers, a guy who eventually tipped the scales at 400 pounds. Rogers came into the league as a total monster on the D-line. À la porte, Texas native. He was a high school stud, playing both ways, and even lining up at running back for goal line carries. His massive build and surprising agility earned him the locker room handle Chunks. At Texas, he teamed up with Casey Hampton to form a brick wall, racking up nearly 200 tackles, 14 sacks, and over 50 tackles for loss while snagging all Big 12 honors in 2000. That dominance in Texas got him picked 61st overall by the Detroit Lions in the second round of the 2001 draft. He didn't waste time making his mark in Detroit, posting 90 tackles, 3 sacks, and knocking down 4 passes in his rookie debut alone. Fast forward to 2004, and he was starting in the Pro Bowl and making all-pro lists, showing off a scary blend of mass and disruption. But the grind of the trenches, mixed with lifestyle choices, started catching up to him. As the years went on, his weight became a major red flag. At 6'4", rumors swirled that he swelled up to nearly 400 pounds, way heavier than any defensive tackle should be. Even during his late career stop with the Giants, he showed up to camp tipping the scales at over 350, sparking serious doubts about whether he could even move or breathe. Old teammates talked about how wildly his weight would swing, and Rogers owned up to the struggle. Finally, in 2019, he decided enough was enough. He went under the knife for gastric sleeve surgery to shrink his stomach and finally get his health back on track. This procedure was a total game changer, curbing his appetite and melting away the fat while reversing serious issues like diabetes that had plagued him during his playing days. Word on the street is he dropped over 250 pounds, morphing from a sluggish, heavy defensive tackle into a completely unrecognizable, lean machine. Let's shift gears to Carlos Williams, a rookie who took sympathy weight to a whole new level alongside his pregnant fiancée. The kid burst onto the scene with sky-high potential. Coming out of Ridge Community High in Davenport, Florida, he was a 5-star stud, a triple threat in football, track, and hoops. He blazed through the 100-meter dash in just 10.5 seconds during his senior year at Florida State. Williams kicked things up in the fifth-round pick 105 in 2015, and he didn't waste a second. Talk about an entrance. His first NFL carry went 26 yards to the house. Then, in Week 3, he torched the Miami Dolphins for 110 yards and a pair of touchdowns. He was unstoppable, tying an NFL record by finding the end zone in his first 6 career games, putting his name right next to Robert Edwards in the history books. At 6'1" and a solid 230 pounds, he was a nightmare combination of size and agility. But come 2016, that dream physique started turning into a nightmare for his career. He showed up to Buffalo's mandatory minicamp in June, looking heavy, really heavy, tipping the scales at a reported 261 pounds. Williams didn't hide the reason, blaming the bulk on his fiance's pregnancy cravings. He joked that every time she grabbed a snack, he was right there eating with her. The Bills weren't laughing. They banished him to solo conditioning drills, with head coach Rex Ryan publicly stating he was nowhere near ready for game day. To his credit, Williams tried to right the ship. He overhauled his diet, ditching red meat and late-night snacking for smaller portions, while grinding with the team's conditioning crew to shed the pounds. But the damage was done. Buffalo cut him loose in August 2016, and a string of league suspensions for substance abuse essentially nailed the coffin shut on his time there. Switching gears, let's look at a legend who let the scale get dangerously out of control, Nate Newton. Before he was a household name, Newton was a monster lineman at Florida A&M. Despite all MEAC honors, he went undrafted in 1983 before scraping his way onto the Washington roster. A bad car wreck and a pink slip from Washington stalled his NFL dreams. But he found a lifeline in the USFL with the Tampa Bay Bandits. He spent 1984 and 85 grinding at offensive tackle under the legendary Steve Spurrier. Standing 6'2" and wider than a barn door, he earned the nickname The Kitchen. When he landed with the Dallas Cowboys in 1986, he became the anchor of their legendary O-line. The guy was a beast, racking up 6 Pro Bowl nods between 92 and 98 and helping power Dallas to 3 Super Bowl rings in the 90s. But even with the glory, the weight was a ticking time bomb. He played around 325 pounds, but after hanging up the cleats, he ballooned to over 400, entering the super obese medical category. By 2010, his body was waving white flags. Diabetes, sky-high blood pressure, sleep apnea, and crippling arthritis were taking over. Simply walking was a chore, and he was terrified he'd be 6 feet under before he could watch his youngest son walk across the graduation stage. Desperate to survive, Newton went under the knife in April 2010 for a vertical gastrectomy, chopping out about 75% of his stomach. Between the surgery, a strict high-protein menu, and training up to 5 hours a day, he melted off more than 175 pounds. He dropped to a lean 220, a weight he hadn't seen since high school. Newton called it a total resurrection. He could finally move, train hard, and feel a rush of energy that had been missing for decades. Now, let's talk about Lendale White, a powerhouse whose career got derailed by the bottle and off-field drama. White burst onto the scene with a reputation as a bruiser, a guy who would run through you, not around you. A Denver native, he absolutely owned the high school scene, setting Colorado's all-time rushing record with a staggering 7,804 yards while stacking up All-American accolades. At USC, he was the thunder to Reggie Bush's lightning. He used that wrecking ball frame to lead the Trojans in rushing during his freshman and sophomore campaigns. He wrapped up his college days with over 3,000 yards and 52 trips to the end zone, dropping jaw-dropping performances in the Orange Bowl and the Rose Bowl. Despite the stats, his draft stock tanked. Scouts took one look at his soft midsection at the combine and cruelly dubbed him Big Fat Lendale and Len Whale. He bailed on most drills, citing a hamstring issue, and only put up 15 reps on the bench. He entered the league looking weak and out of shape compared to his dominant college form. The Tennessee Titans took a chance on him, 45th overall in 2006. But his rookie year was basically a wash. He barely scraped together 244 yards that first year. But in 2007, he flipped the switch. rushing for over 1,100 yards and 7 scores once he grabbed the starting job. By 2008, paired with Chris Johnson, White hit his peak with 15 touchdowns and an 80-yard sprint. He led the AFC in scoring, but you could tell the tires were starting to wear down. His weight was a roller coaster. Rumors swirled that he ballooned up to 265 pounds while still wearing a Titans jersey. All that extra bulk killed his quickness. The coaching staff noticed, the fans noticed, and suddenly, his conditioning was the only thing people talked about. In 2009, with a new contract on the line, he got serious. He ditched the booze, tightened his routine, and dropped over 30 pounds to get back down to 229. The transformation turned heads, teammates, and even the team owner praised his new, explosive speed. But looking the part wasn't enough. He was shipped off to Seattle in 2010, only to get cut before the season started after flunking a drug test. A brief stint with Denver ended in disaster with a torn Achilles in the preseason, and by 2011, he was done. Finally, let's look at a player whose size was the story. From day one, Desmond Watson. With Desmond Watson, you couldn't miss him. The guy was massive from the get-go. Born in Plant City, Florida, he was actually the runt of the litter among 6 siblings, but that didn't last long. He terrorized Pee Wee leagues, and by his junior year at Armwood High, he was already a mountain of a man standing 6'6" and weighing 375 pounds. The guy was an absolute nightmare for offenses, racking up 65 stops with 34 in the backfield and 10 quarterback takedowns, powering Armwood straight to the postseason, closing out high school with a staggering 158 tackles and 24 sacks. This 4-star monster had heavy hitters like Alabama, Florida State, and Michigan begging for his signature. He took his talents to Gainesville, hoping to translate that massive frame into SEC dominance. But down in the swamp, Watson just kept getting bigger and bigger, hitting the field as a 400-pound freshman. He saw action in all 13 contests, chipping in on special teams and defense to log 7 stops and a shared sack. Over the following 3 years, he ballooned to a jaw-dropping 464 pounds, and while he cracked the starting lineup with 25 tackles, the on-field impact never quite caught up to his immense stature. When his collegiate days wrapped up, he boasted a perfect attendance record on game days, walking away with 63 total stops and 1.5 sacks to his name. While his gargantuan build broke the internet, it was obvious that stamina and movement were holding him back until the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took a chance on him in 2025. Stashed on the non-football injury list to get his body right, he shed roughly 25 pounds, grinding daily with the team's dietitians and strength coaches to reshape his future. It was a battle of the mind as much as the body, as Watson had to push through solitary conditioning sessions while watching his teammates go to war on the practice field. Come September, he fought his way onto the practice squad, sharpening his skills under the wing of Pro Bowl nose tackle Vita Vea, who drilled him on professional standards and readiness. He hasn't cracked the 53-man roster just yet, but the transformation is real, trimming down from a massive 464 pounds in college to a leaner 449 as a pro. What is your take on this massive transformation? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe on NFL Rivals so you are locked in for our next upload.